to the brain and thinking about what kind of brain dysfunction is potentially related to these high YFS scores. I did some work with colleagues Eric Stice and Sonia Yoakum, where we did some neuroimaging work with 48 healthy young women. On average, these women were overweight, and they ranged from normal weight to severe obesity. We excluded everyone who had an eating disorder. And this is, I think, in some ways it was kind of handicapping us a little bit. You know, we're not getting people who are having binge eating disorder or bulimia, but it also helps us ask the question of what really is food addiction. Is it just an eating disorder that we already know exists? We know that none of these individuals had an eating disorder. In all our analyses, we controlled for the effect of their body mass index. We brought them in the scanner, and we repeatedly showed them pictures of a chocolate milkshake or a glass of water. Then individuals actually consumed either a chocolate Haagen-Dazs milkshake or a neutral control system as stimulus in the scanner. So this provides this really nice opportunity to both look at anticipatory response to those cues that Mark talked about was so strong for him, as well as what's happening when you're actually consuming the substance. So what did we find? We found that young women who had higher food addiction scores were particularly reactive to those milkshake cues relative to the control cues. In particular, they showed greater activation in the medial orbitofrontal cortex, the amygdala, the caudate, which is part of the striatum, key neural regions that are implicated in the salience of cues in drug addiction, enhanced motivation in drug addiction, and incentive salience, where the cues really stick out to you and are really capable of triggering responses and motivation. So this cue response was really, really powerful for those individuals who had higher YFAS scores. What about when they were consuming the milkshake? We weren't sure. We thought maybe these individuals were going to find the chocolate milkshake so much more pleasurable and rewarding. And we actually didn't see that. We found that when they were consuming the milkshake, the big difference here was that the lateral orbitofrontal cortex, which in addiction has been implicated in cognitive control in some studies, was not working as well when they were consuming the chocolate milkshake relative to the neutral control stimulus, which suggests that these individuals have this 1-2 punch of a really intense reward-related response when they see these cues, this kind of intense go signal. But when they start consuming the substance, the brakes, the stop signal, doesn't seem to be working as well. And this also parallels what we see with drugs of abuse. So in summary, for this study, we saw that there were greater neural differences during the cue versus the consumption. And this really struck me as indicative of a very imminent theory in addiction called the incentive sensitization theory of addiction. And what this suggests is that when you first start using an addictive substance, you might like it and enjoy it, and you really want it. You respond to the cues for it. But over time, there seems to be an uncoupling of what starts to drive the use. And in addiction, it stops being about how much you like or enjoy the substance and starts being about the ability of the cue to trigger the dopamine system and trigger intense wanting or desire. And that's what we were seeing more here, that the cue really seemed to be more powerful than what was happening in consumption. There were limitations here to consider, so this was likely a conservative test. We didn't have a lot of individuals who met full-blown YFAS food addiction in this study. We're actually doing that right now, where we have individuals who meet full-blown YFAS criteria, weight-matched controls, and we're looking at reward-related processes in the scanner. We also were assuming some interpretation. These neural systems are involved in a lot of different mechanisms. And we think that it's tying on to wanting and liking, but we didn't have specific ratings of those constructs. And that's something we're doing now as well, to look at psychologically what is the experience like for the individual so we can link that to